Just a few decades ago, the people of this country were heavily addicted to drugs, and poverty was so severe that people died of starvation. But today, 1 out of every 6 people in that country is a millionaire. This is Singapore, the only country in the world that was forcefully granted independence. Despite all these challenges, this country now has the highest GDP per capita in the world. But how did this happen? If you look at Singapore on the world map, you'll notice that it is located in a very strategic position. One side of Singapore lies along the Strait of Malacca. Since the beginning of global trade, the Strait of Malacca has been considered the most important route for trading. Because for any country in the Middle East or Europe, this strait was the shortest route for trading with East Asia. To gain control over the Malacca Strait, the British came to Singapore in 1819 and established a port named Singapore Port. They strategically made the port completely tax-free for ships. Even though making it tax-free caused short-term financial loss for the British, the primary goal was to boost Singapore's long-term trade. Due to these measures, all ships passing through the Strait of Malacca began docking at Singapore Port. As a result, people from India, China, and Malaysia started migrating to Singapore, and the population of Singapore began to grow. This prompted the British to improve security and develop infrastructure in Singapore. As a result, Singapore transformed from just a seaport into a full-fledged British colony. However, Singapore then faced a major problem. Opium addiction spread widely among the people. It became such a part of daily life that it turned into a societal norm. Later, when World War I began, Singapore's condition worsened. Global trade declined due to the war, causing most of the workers at Singapore Port to lose their jobs. Widespread poverty ensued. Additionally, violence and crime among various ethnic groups began to increase. Thousands of people died during this time. Then in 1939, with the start of World War II, Singapore's condition deteriorated even further. Since it was a British-controlled territory, Japan attacked it in 1942. The Japanese carried out mass killings and took control of the entire area within 7 days. But after losing World War II in 1945, Japan withdrew from the territory, and for the second time, control returned to the British. This time, some legal reforms were introduced. Also, elections were allowed in order to establish a governmental system in Singapore. However, the British retained control over all foreign relations and security matters. In 1959, Singapore held elections to form its government, and for the first time, Lee Kuan Yew became the prime minister. He was elected from the People's Action Party and won 43 out of 51 seats. Lee Kuan Yew was the man who completely transformed Singapore and brought it into the list of the wealthiest nations. You might now wonder, what exactly did Lee Kuan Yew do that transformed Singapore from a hub of poverty, corruption, drugs, and crime into Asia's #1 country? When Lee Kuan Yew first became prime minister, he realized that the most essential need for building a nation was ethnic unity. Singapore was home to Indians, Malays, Chinese, and people of other races and religions, but there was no unity among them. They lived in separate slums and colonies, and communal riots were frequent. To unite them, Lee Kuan Yew established the Housing and Development Board, HDB, in 1960. Through this project, large buildings were constructed in Singapore. Slum dwellers were given proper housing with good infrastructure at a very low cost. Prime Minister Lee believed that when someone owns a home in a city, they feel a sense of responsibility and affection toward it. He intentionally mixed different religious and ethnic groups together in housing projects to promote understanding and harmony. Thus, his first plan was implemented, and Singapore's slums gradually turned into high-rise buildings. Next, Prime Minister Lee turned to education. At that time, there were various colonial schools. He established better structured schools with affordable facilities and emphasized quality education, especially in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM. He also promoted the importance of ethnic unity, starting from the school level. To ensure proper governance, the Prevention of Corruption Act was introduced in 1960. Lee understood that without eliminating corruption, none of his plans would succeed. So, an independent anti-corruption agency was formed with full operational autonomy to investigate and take strict action against anyone involved in corruption. In 1961, the Economic Development Board, EDB, was established. Through this, Singapore was positioned as a business-friendly location for foreign companies. Policies were made to offer various benefits to companies setting up branches in Singapore. Some were even given tax-free status for 2 to 3 years. As a result, many foreign companies came and started operations in Singapore. The EDB played a key role in the development of manufacturing, finance, and shipping sectors. However, Lee still feared that if the British left and took their security support with them, Singapore would collapse. Moreover, Singapore was heavily economically dependent on neighboring Malaysia. Lee wanted Malaysia to incorporate Singapore, so a vote was held and most Singaporeans agreed to join Malaysia. Finally, on the 16th of September 1963, Singapore became a state of Malaysia, receiving 16 parliamentary seats. Soon after, ethnic riots broke out between the Malays and Chinese in Singapore. The Malaysian government proposed to Lee that Malays in Singapore should be given special privileges, but Lee refused, saying all people in Singapore should be treated equally. This led to political tension, and on the 9th of August 1965, Malaysia forcefully separated Singapore, which then became the Republic of Singapore. At the same time, the British also decided to withdraw from Singapore. On the 17th of August 1967, they left, rendering many workers jobless with no immediate solutions available. With the British gone, Singapore was left on its own with a weak security system. To tackle this, Singapore, along with Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines, formed the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. Next, Lee relaxed business policies even more for major European companies. This attracted a wave of foreign businesses to Singapore, creating over 30,000 jobs. Oil refining centers and other industries were established. EDB also announced that any company investing in high-tech industries in Singapore would be tax-free for 5 years. Around 1970, Singapore's banks began offering high interest rates to attract foreign investors. This led to such massive investment that Singapore's entire economic situation transformed, turning it into a global financial hub. A skill development fund was created to build a highly skilled workforce. Singapore shifted its focus from low-value products to high-value ones, like computer parts. Lee understood that producing labor-intensive, low-profit items would hinder growth. Thanks to this strategy, Singapore soon became one of the top high-value manufacturing countries in the world. By the 1990s, Lee had implemented projects that made Singapore one of the safest, cleanest, and most beautiful countries globally. Singapore also became known for world-class education and healthcare. It now ranks second among the most business-friendly countries. All of this was possible due to Lee Kuan Yew's leadership and efforts. Instead of promoting himself, he always worked to move the country forward. That's why even today, if you visit Singapore, you won't find any statues or posters of him anywhere.